The guy who I want to run against President Obama, or the woman, let's not forget, that might be an opening we haven't thought about. Follow the first African-American president with the first female president, and have it be someone who will go up and say, you can trust me. I'm not going to go and do what the president did. You know what you could even do, ladies and gentlemen? You could have someone sign a pledge saying, I'm only going to run for one term. I will not run for another. You can sue me if I do. I'll sign a contract. I'm going to get up there. I know people hate contracts now because that's overdone. But just say, I'm going to get steamrolled, dying for these causes in a political sense, because I've already said I'm not going to be around. This is a kamikaze politician, Ben. It's a one-way trip, right? It's a one-term trip. They're going to get to D.C. and they're going to say, I'm going to fight and die because I got nothing to lose. I'm not running again. So, if you're going to steamroll me, you're going to do it in front of the American people, and I'm going to be screaming every step of the way, how you're cutting their throat, how you're voting for things that go against their interest, how, you're screwing the middle and lower classes of this country. There was a piece, I want to say about 2 weeks ago, in Rolling Stone magazine's blog section from Matt Taibbi. And Taibbi's done a great job of looking at the Wall Street problems and everything. And he wrote a piece talking about, it's a mystifying thing to those of us who've watched the American system for a long time. What happened to the Democratic Party? And again, even if you're a Republican, you don't want what happened to the Democratic Party to have happened, because there's a certain balance in the American system that's important, and it's been changing for a long time now. And there's a certain point where the imbalances get so precariously bad that it screws the whole system up, Republicans and Democrats. Here's what Taibbi wrote about the fact that the Democrats have sort of abrogated their role in the balancing act of the teeter-totter that used to be American politics. He calls it the DLC. He refers to it as the DLC era in this piece. And just so you know, the DLC era means the Democratic Leadership Council era. That's the President Clinton era Democrats who decided that the best way to beat Republicans was to throw off the shackles of, the working class and the middle class and all these things that the Democratic Party had always stood for, and embrace, what the Republicans were doing and win elections because of it. And the way that these people, baby boomers for the most part, now growing up and becoming pragmatic, the way that they justify this was saying it was better to have Democrats in office who cared about the things that Democrats cared about, even if they didn't, push them very hard or achieve much, than it was to have Republicans. That same old lesser of two evils question that kills us every time. Here's what Taibbi writes. I did not put a date on here, so we will go back and put it in the show notes. How typical of me, Ben. This is an exact quote from the piece, a couple of paragraphs. Here's how it starts. Quote. This is from near the end of the piece. Quote. The blindness of the DLC-era third-way Democratic Party continues to be an astounding thing. For more than a decade now, they've been clinging to the idea that the path to electoral success is social liberalism plus laissez-faire economics. In other words, get Wall Street and corporate America to fund your campaigns, and get minorities, pro-choice, and gay marriage activists, who will always be frightened into loyalty by the Tea Party Christian loonies on the other side, to march at your rallies and vote every November. They've abandoned the unions and jobs platform that was the party's anchor since Roosevelt, and the latest innovations all involve peeling back their own policy legacies from the 20th century. Obama's new plan, for instance, might involve slashing Medicare and Social Security under quote-end-quote pressure from the Republicans. Taibbi continues, I simply don't believe the Democrats would really be worse off with voters if they committed themselves to putting people back to work, policing Wall Street, throwing their weight behind a real public option in health care, making hedge fund managers pay the same tax rates as ordinary people, ending the pointless wars abroad, etc. That they won't do these things because they're afraid of public criticism and quote-end-quote responding to pressure is an increasingly transparent lie. This, please, Briar Fox, don't throw me in that there Briar Patch deal isn't going to work for much longer. Just about everybody knows now that they want to go into that Briar Patch. End quote. Taibbi's right, folks. We don't have people that balance out our system anymore because we don't have a party that represents the sorts of people in the society the Democrats used to pretend to represent. The funny thing is that they used to pretend to do it, and they used to pretend well. Now, They don't even pretend well. Do you hear the Democrats really talking about poor people anymore? Do you hear? I mean, it's astounding how far we've come. The best idea I can think of is having, have some whack job Democrats, somebody who's so far to the left they sound like you pulled them out of the late 60s, early 70s, right? Get them up there and have them, if they were believable, and if you thought to yourself, okay, I fell for President Obama, but I know that this person will fall on their sword, striving for these things. They have a long track record of their lives of pushing these issues. That's why guys like Ron Paul and Dennis Kucinich appeal to me. You can look at their track record. These guys have sacrificed themselves over and over again, public scorn, criticism, all that stuff for what they believe in. So even if you don't believe in it, you can kind of rest assured that at least these people probably aren't going to change their spots once they're elected. I've rarely seen someone do it as blatantly as the president has. Does he deserve to get reelected, when he does that? And if he does, what's the message you're sending to all of them? Over and over and over again. And I can hear the hardcore Democrats right now saying, Dan, everything you say makes sense, but, we'd be loony to allow the other side to take over because we want to send Barack Obama a message. That's the same attitude that we always have, ladies and gentlemen, as Americans. This is what sustains the system. Nobody wants to take the shot. That's why Social Security isn't fixed when you could just change the age by a few years and boom, done. Easy. No one wants to take the shot. All these people are afraid to take a political blow. They're so concerned. I mean, it's amazing to me. They are so concerned about their jobs. I get a little scared anytime anybody is, willing to sell their soul almost to get some position. And then always ask why. What's so important to you? You're not going to be a millionaire at this job, right? Although we don't really elect people who aren't almost millionaires. And if they weren't millionaires when they went into office, they are when they come out. Why do these people want to be reelected so bad? What happened to the idea of I'll go to Washington, I'll do some good, and then I'll go have a life? If that's your attitude, you don't care about that next election more than you care about, your legacy. And legacies are about achievement, folks. And achievement means passing things and bettering people's life. It doesn't mean, what it says on your tombstone. He served 15 terms as congressman. That applies that he did something well. Maybe he just played the game of politics well. That's no legacy. President Obama deserves a primary challenger more than any president I've ever lived through. And the system almost demands it. Make this man answer questions from his own people, the Democrats, about why he let them down. And don't stand for answers like, well, I tried and we just didn't have the votes, or I thought it would be better to come away with something rather than nothing at all. Let them steamroll you. There's something noble about being the hero who dies a symbolic political death for the cause. You will be idolized. You will be a cult figure. You will stay in the hearts of Americans the way some presidents have in the past, whose portraits for decades after they left office were up in the homes of average Americans. The way you make a real legacy, Mr. President, is by standing up for your beliefs. The way you get reelected may mean jettisoning those beliefs. I think we've seen what's more important to you pretty much since Inauguration Day. I hope for the system's sake someone gets up and challenges you on all those issues you ran on. And I hope they bring, the archive of YouTube videos that they can play right in front of you and make you argue with candidate Barack Obama, Mr. President. I'm just going to warn you now. He gives a really good speech.